I have a lot of really interesting thoughts that I want to just bring to the table as far as just the Legend of Zelda series. I've made several videos of potential ideas for video games. I've got a bunch of notes for potential ideas for video games based on IP that's already come out, as well as future ideas that could potentially spring from those ideas. Specifically, the fact that the that basically the series is about time and reincarnation and seeing what they've been doing with the Breath of the Wild, how it all comes together, just all because in actuality, the Legend of Zelda series is actually three timelines and how they connect and everything is basis of all these games. It's very interesting and really in-depth stuff. It's very genius how it's all become too, which makes me wonder, was it all by design or did it just become a thing? So anyways, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the official sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and have to say I was one of those dummies that did not have a Switch, didn't really, I'd kind of fallen off the Nintendo train quite a while ago. I was more the Xbox, then I started getting more into the PlayStation, and now I'm into Nintendo again. And it was years before I even picked up Breath of the Wild, and I have to admit that this has got to be not only one of the best games of all time, well, starting with one of the best Legend of Zelda game, but also one of the best games of all time, easily top 50 in my opinion. It's just great. It's got the best of both worlds. It's a natural evolution of the Legend of Zelda series. Grand open world, memorable characters, great combat, tons of exploration, side quests, just everything. Which, now that I think about it, the episode that I made of the Legend of Zelda game that I would like to see, I'm going to make a comparison to Breath of the Wild and see did it meet those expectations. But basically saying, if you have not played Breath of the Wild, what are you waiting for? It's definitely worth it. Definitely a great game. And they did announce that they were going to be making a sequel for it. Now, there's a lot of good that can come out of that, and there's a lot of things that kind of got me worried because of how successful Breath of the Wild was. I was very interested to seeing them stick with the formula of creating like an open world game with these interesting mechanics, this grand level of detail, which sometimes it feels like the game is a little too big. There are those moments where you go to those long stretches without really seeing any activity, which that's always the curse of making open world games on such a big scale, is that the world just does not feel lively. But I think they do a decent enough job with the animal life, the enemies, the people. They do make it big. They make it big, but I think they do make it enough to where it's lively. And there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of places to go explore too. So, but some of the negatives that I felt like since this was a big success, it was like, okay, they're going to try to stick with the formula. And since they said it was going to be a direct sequel, I was like, well, most of the Legend of Zelda games aren't sequels like that. Like, not, at least not direct sequels. Yes, there might be the next incarnation of the characters forming that type of sequel, but not like a direct sequel to the game. So maybe it's like, okay, it was so successful that they're afraid that they can't top it, so they're just going to stick with this one. But we'll reserve judgment. But anyways, having seen the trailer, there really wasn't much to it. There is a big expansion, which another thing that got me kind of worried was the fact that, okay, we're going to be set in the same, it looks like it's going to be the same location. So we've explored this just great world that this game has given, Breath of the Wild has given us. It's just so expansive, so much exploration, so many side quests and stuff. How are you going to address this again without making it feel so repetitive? And of course, when we see the trailer, which honestly I was not really impressed with in the trailers, not that I needed to see spoilers or anything like that. I need to see some of the best that the game offers. I just felt like it was okay showing some of the new mechanics that they got in it, such as the flying machine that you see Link flying with. You got the little automobile-like machine that you see him driving, which I think is pretty interesting. Going back to this game being in the aftermath of industrial age where machines, mechanical robots and stuff were a thing in Hyrule, but now they're kind of being introduced after the calamity. So I think that's interesting evolutionary step that they should take. That some of these things will get brought back. I think that's pretty interesting. I'm a little worried to see how that's gonna. Is that gonna take too much from, like, say, riding a horse, being actually able to, like, fly and stuff like that? It's interesting. But that was interesting new mechanics they did show in it. Also, going back to what I was saying about the map and everything, apparently we have sky islands. Now, I'm not sure where these sky islands come from. It looks like just pieces from a trailer, at least. Pieces of the land just floated up into the sky. And again, now I played Breath of the Wild. I have not beaten it yet. And I don't know if that potentially was something that was in the original at the end of the game. They got introduced at the end of the game. So far in Breath of the Wild, these sky islands aren't a part of it. And from the trailer, it kind of makes it seem like basically that pieces of the land just flew up into the sky. Now, I could be wrong on that, and I probably am, but that's kind of the way it looked like. And like I said, I haven't beaten the game, so maybe me beating the game introduces that, or maybe just a new phenomena that's just going to jump off in this game. So I'm interested to see about the Sky Islands, how detailed they are, how much time you're going to spend up there compared to on the ground. Because in the trailer, you spend a lot of time on it. It seems like you spend a lot of time on the ground. So what is the purpose of the Sky Islands? Are these going to be new locations? Are these going to be old locations thrown up into the sky? So there's a lot of open interpretation in the trailer. It's not. It didn't seem like, okay, that this Sky Islands just descended from heaven and anything. And again, I don't know, but I like the idea of it. I want to say there was another game, a Legend of Zelda game, that had like Sky Islands in it, but I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe it was Twilight Princess, or maybe it was Skyward Sword. I felt like it was another Legend of Zelda game that had like a Sky Island type theme to it. But anyways, and then you don't really see much. Now, in the Breath of the Wild, they had a thing with the little blood moon would jump off, and then when the blood moon came, which periodically it did, monsters got stronger, or more monsters popped up and stuff. And it seems like they're going to continue with that. Now, I actually thought that was like a result of the Ganondorf's curse or something like that. Again, haven't beaten the game, so I'm not 100%. But I thought a result of Ganondorf's influence. Now, this trailer got me thinking, okay, maybe it's just something that's naturally that does happen. And the villain in this, which I don't know, they make it seem like they're going to explore that a little bit more, because that is one of the focal points of the trailer. Does this new supposed evil force or lingering force of Ganon have something to do with this blood moon? Is it the actual force behind it? Which, okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting concept. That means that the Ganondorf's influence was the only thing being the unnatural force in the land, but you were technically battling two different evil forces. So that's interesting. So I'm interested to see if they're going to explore that. They do show this weird mummy-looking guy, and I'm not sure if he's going to be the villain. It makes it seem like Zelda Link ends up awakening this villain or whatever, or they go to confront this villain and he awakens. I'm not sure. But my thing is, I do want to know who the villain is. Now, Ganondorf in Legend of Zelda is like Sephiroth to Final Fantasy. He owns it. It's like Shao Kahn to Mortal Kombat. It's like Bison to freaking Street Fighter. And I'm always gonna love Ganondorf, and I love the interpretations of the characters. I am hoping that this next game has nothing to do with Ganondorf. I do not want to see his character. I think his interpretation in Breath of the Wild is freaking awesome, and possibly one of the top 3 best incarnations of the character, but I don't want them to linger on Ganondorf so much, I think that his role in Breath of the Wild could have some influence in the story of the new Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't want him to be the main villain. Like when you played, against Majora in Majora's Mask. Zant was actually a pretty interesting villain in Twilight Princess. I like Sia's character in Hyrule Warriors. So Legends of Zelda does have some pretty interesting, memorable villains, and I want to see them dive more. I want to see them be able to create an original one for this game. Maybe Ganondorf and Ganondorf's presence eclipse another villain that was naturally there, and they had this, and maybe Ganondorf sealed him away. But I just want to see a really cool villain too. I just want to see, especially given the immensity, enormity of Ganondorf's presence and appearance in Breath of the Wild. So I'm interested definitely on who the villain is going to be. But I'm interested also with more features and stuff. I want to see more customization when it comes. I've always had a thing with Legends of Zelda. I want to see customization, not only to his costumes, but maybe even his weapons. You get the fire arrow, which is always, that makes it seem like it's an equip. But I wanted to be, I wanted you to be able to modify your weapons. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that'll make the combat a bit more diverse too. I don't want to sit here and have to go through play half the game to finally get some fire arrows or lightning arrows. No, let me modify it. You know what I'm saying? Just go to a shop and they modify my bow with fire arrows, or they modify it with lightning arrows or something like that. I think that'd be really, really interesting idea. But all in all, when watching the trailer, I thought it was pretty cool. I wish there was a bit more to it. They did show a lot of the Sky Islands, like flying, like gliding. It's just a beautiful trailer. You get to see some moments between Zelda, Link, potentially the new villain that's going to be in the story, and not, like I said, it was pretty cool. And maybe it doesn't have the same exact amount of hype that Breath of the Wild did, because before Breath of the Wild, Zelda games weren't as immense and didn't have this enormity to them in that same fashion. So there was definitely a jump. It was basically seeing, a link to the past, playing Link to the Past, and then finally seeing the trailer for Ocarina of Time. So we had a lot of good Zelda games, then all of a sudden Breath of the Wild comes along and changes the game. Now the question is, will they be able to top it? We'll see. Right now they've already given us the visuals and the grandiose scale to it. Now time to refine a lot of the features, add new enemies, add new characters. We got this whole Sky Island map that's going to be added to it. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go with this. So